Greetings, fellow Barbadians. As the new year rolls in, people will be thinking, out with the old and in with the new. As Barbados enters 2023, the National Democratic Progress urges our citizens to consider whether the old economic model is and has been working well for us. Let me give you some examples in the form of a question. Can we afford, actually pay for, good quality and healthy food? Is our healthcare system adequately resourced such that it is efficient, or might it be unbearably slow? Are our public servants and services accessible? In other words, can we reach someone on the telephone to get assistance when we need, or must we always leave home, leave work, stand in a long line, and hope to get service with a smile? Is our public transportation system safe as well as dependable? And how well is our economy incorporating the youth, particularly young men? Is our economy able to keep pace with the changing needs of our citizens? Or do we need some fresh approaches? Our old economic model or legacy is one heavily dependent on foreign imports. And to pay for foreign stuff, we need foreign money. In this message, however, I want to limit my attention to food production and food prices, and address the other concerns from my introduction in future messages. In recent years, Barbados has spent US $350 million in food imports each year. Since government doesn't collect enough foreign exchange and enough revenue to purchase all the things from abroad and to provide all the services we need locally and internally, including feeding ourselves, government has to effectively borrow money to consume. That is, we borrow to eat, to drink, and discard. And consequently, we apply too little of that money towards investments in food production of the things especially that we consume the most. And that would be the natural, normal, everyday food items and animal feed inputs. In other words, citizens, we are not investing enough in the capacity to feed ourselves. We are not aggressively investing enough to feed ourselves adequately. This has been a decades-long failing of successive governments. We cannot even supply our basic nutritional needs or the needs of the animals that we raise to eat. We feed our animals with imported ingredients and at the mercy of foreign debt, borrowed money. Out with that old economic model and in with a new model of self-reliance. Remove the model of mismanagement and excessive food imports and rely on providing food for ourselves. Well, let's face it though, there are things we will always want and need to import. That's the reality. We're not unrealistic, we're not impractical, we're not unsophisticated in the sense that we don't know this. We actually know and understand this. But there are untapped physical resources, untapped intellectual curiosity, and untapped industrial development that will save our economy millions in foreign exchange each year. Millions that we presently use for imported food that we might otherwise grow and provide for ourselves. And as well, insufficient quantities. This is money that could be better used for targeted agriculture development, where we focus on the things that we need and consume the most. That is where we need to put that investment money, and for food processing, for the healthy things that we must consume or should consume the most. And in the process of doing this, we create employment, research and development, and even export the products that we have created and found useful for ourselves to other markets. We have the land and farm capacity to increase our food production levels. We have the scientific resources at the University of the West Indies to identify and utilize local plant resources to make standards-based animal feed concentrates. And we have the human capital, a lot of human capital, to work in the production and manufacturing of both human and animal nutrition. We just don't have the political will, folks. Until now. The National Democratic Progress is the party of political will. The best way for us to engage that political will and for the economy to develop is to invest in self-reliance. Self-reliance gives us economic space to invest in other foreign exchange earning activities where we export our excess without needing to import as much to feed ourselves. Indeed, Western and other governments around the world have recently given increased attention and focus to the concept of self-reliance. They've even given it a name, autarky. And this is because we find ourselves, as a result of COVID and as a result of the war in Ukraine, faced with the reality of trade disruptions, grain shortages, rising interest rates, and global inflation, all initiated by COVID and the war in Europe, as I said earlier. Barbados needs to get in with the new, a new mindset, a new vision, a new intellect, a new determination, and a new passion. We need to increase our local food production as well as food variety. Look, let's face it, no one wants to eat boring food. We all know that. Okay? So this is an opportunity where we can incorporate the desires of the people into the needs of the economy. In other words, we create our own economy for our own food needs right here locally and put that investment money into our economy rather than consuming it. In addition to food processing and storage, we also need to have a convenient market access for local food suppliers. This is an important concept. This is something that is not being done. It seems to not even have been adequately imagined or imagined at a primitive level. We need to imagine this concept at a more sophisticated and a grander scale than what we're doing right now. The National Democratic Progress will have more to say on its market access concept in the coming months. Approaching Barbados $700 million in food imports annually is a reflection of our lack of attention to local economy building and self-reliance. I want to say that again because that's very important. 700 million Barbados dollars each year is a reflection of food imports, is a reflection of our lack of attention to local economy building and self-reliance. Food prices are a pain point for Barbadians and tourists alike. And government seems at a loss to imagine and to execute lasting, pragmatic solutions other than borrow and borrow again and roll over that debt and borrow again and borrow again. And what this is doing, this is making life more expensive for the average person in Barbados because we now have to pay more in hidden taxes to pay the interest and of course the principal of that money that we've gotten as a result of loans from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the likes. Barbados might soon have to import its own black belly sheep. Or we might soon have to import, as I might say, Guyanese black belly sheep. And I say this because I'm not trying to discourage or disparage the recent participation between Barbados and Guyana, but I think it is being done not in the way that it should be done. In other words, it is good to have regional partnerships. It is good to utilize the resources and the space that Guyana has to offer. What is challenging for us, or as far as the National Democratic Progress Party is concerned, is that we are not doing adequate local development ourselves. We are outsourcing our food needs. And this is effectively very similar to importing our food. Because what really happens if Guyana is unable or unwilling, or any of our regional partners are unable or unwilling to continue providing us with the food services that we ought to be providing for ourselves. So the priority, in my opinion, should be on local agriculture development, as well as utilizing the partnerships that we can have with our regional partners like Guyana, Jamaica, and the other islands in the Caribbean. Citizens, we pay too much for food because we produce too little of it ourselves. And we also buy with foreign exchange the inputs that would allow us to grow our own food. We have to pay a lot of money for fertilizers. So that is an input that makes our agriculture more effective. But at the same time, everything we're importing with foreign money that we've had to borrow, and it makes our economy difficult to grow. Imported soybean, wheat, and corn mean that meat and milk are expensive. We need to change that model. And if you change the model, you change the game. In terms of meat and milk products, how many of us really buy fresh milk? You know, Barbadians know about condensed milk, Barbadians know about evaporated milk, and Barbadians who want to taste of fresh milk will find themselves buying the UHT milk. But how many Barbadians can afford to buy fresh milk on a regular basis in our stores? The reason why some of us can't afford to buy fresh milk is government policy. That's it. Government policy is limiting our ability to provide the needs for our own citizens and our own services. We need to produce our own animal feed inputs as well, develop feed industries from our local natural resources, and in the process, create employment and develop expertise as a result. There is an urgent need to radically alter the course of our love affair with foreign debt for food consumption purposes. Global inflation is already impacting the unbearable price burden of food and energy, both things we have insufficient ability. We have the ability to grow more food, and we have the ability to tap into more energy of the sun, as well as some other local energy sources that we have. Citizens, foreign debt should not be for consumption purposes. Foreign debt should not be the primary source or means by which we feed ourselves. Foreign debt should be for developmental purposes. The new economic model has to be agriculture and food production driven, inward looking, manufacture oriented, and debt averse. Out with the old, in with the new. The National Democratic Progress brings us to that new thinking. And we extend our affections to Barbadian residents and ask our citizens abroad to join us in charting a new way forward in 2023 and beyond. I'm Sam Licorice of the National Democratic Progress. Thank you.